So good day, everyone. So my name is Patricia Louise Remoquillo, and I will be presenting my study entitled The Friendship Experiences of Filipino Children with Autism within Metro Manila during COVID-19. So for a brief introduction, autism spectrum disorder was described as having difficulty with one's social emotional abilities, which could influence the way they interacted with others as well as the way they created, maintained, and understood relationships. So in middle childhood, it was found that children in this stage developed a deeper concern for others and focused more on their friendships. Typically, as these children developed, their friendships also changed based on their age group because their priorities and the qualities that they valued in a friend changed. So this was different for children with disabilities because unlike their typical peers, they could have trouble socializing and creating friendships, which caused them to have different priorities in this kind of relationship. Since the children in the spectrum also struggled with connecting with others and struggled with building, preserving, and perceiving relationships, making friends or sharing interests with their peers could be difficult for them. So this meant that although they were capable of befriending other people, these friendships may not always be reciprocated. So this study aimed to discover what these children experienced in terms of their respective friendships from their perspectives, as well as what aspects changed within these friendships of these children and how they changed, especially amid the pandemic. So I chose to study children with ASD in middle childhood since limited studies had been done in order to better understand their perspectives and their emotions. Middle childhood was also chosen since peer acceptance and peer approval were important for the stage of development. So for my theoretical framework, I utilized Levenger and Snoke's developmental theory of pair-relatedness, Holman's social exchange theory, and Erickson's psychosocial theory since they were the most relevant to the aims of my study. This was because I wanted to look into the friendship experiences of children with ASD in middle childhood, as well as their friendship quality, which could then be influenced by the costs and the rewards that they acquired from their friendships and by the level of pair-relatedness that they were in. So the level of pair relatedness was vital for the study because as a pair progressed from one level to the next, they learned to acknowledge and interact with each other more, which caused them to eventually have an interdependent relationship towards one another. So given that the kind of interactions that they shared could influence the kind of relationship that they had, the costs and the rewards that they received were also important since this determined whether or not they would pursue the relationship. Furthermore, because the participants belonged to middle childhood, peers were a vital part of their self-confidence, and it was through gaining the approval of their peers that they developed a sense of pride in their accomplishments. However, because the children with ASD differed based on severity, socialization skills, and intentions for making and maintaining friendships, their friendship experiences might still be unique to each individual. So for my methodology, I used an instrumental case study, which was a study of a case in order to gain more insight on a certain issue or a certain phenomenon. In the case of this study, friendship served as that phenomenon. I also used the snowball sampling technique as well as Scalesi's method of data analysis. So for my data analysis, I first analyzed the data through reading and rereading the transcripts of the interview in order to be familiarized with the information that was given by the participants. I then used the words, phrases, and excerpts which were repeated and considered important and grouped them together based on the similar answers that they had. I then identified the meaningful themes and codes which emerged from these answers, and these themes were carefully analyzed in order to determine common patterns. I also came up with an in-depth description of the phenomenon and made sure that there were no unnecessary descriptions in order to create a fundamental structure of the phenomenon. I then verified the description and meaning of the phenomenon in order to confirm whether or not I was able to accurately describe the friendship experiences. Finally, a cross-case analysis was conducted after all of the themes were collected from each case in order to discern whether the similarities and in order to discern the similarities and the difference in the experiences between case 1 and case 2, case 2 and case 3, and case 1 and case 3. So for my participants, I had a total of 6, 3 of which were children with level 1 ASD in middle childhood, and 3 of which were their typical friends, all of which were from Metro Manila. So the participants with level 1 ASD comprised of 2 male children and 1 female child between the ages of 8 and 10, while their typical friends composed of 2 male children and 1 female adult between the ages of 5 to 33. I also did my interview through Zoom, and I used an interview guide adapted from the questions from Mardine Renwick and Sharman's interview questions about friendship experiences of children with intellectual and developmental disabilities in terms of developing and maintaining friends. I also used probe questions in order to obtain more in-depth answers, and each interview lasted approximately 15 to 30 minutes. So for my results and discussion, I had 6 themes and sub-themes, all of which I will discuss later on. So later you will see that play-based interaction had the highest frequency and forgiveness had the lowest frequency. Additional themes were also part of my data. However, because they did not consistently appear across all 3 cases, the themes had to be removed from the cross-case analysis. So the first theme was satisfaction. So it was found that despite having lesser friends and having friendships which differed from their typical peers, these participants still remained satisfied with their friendships because they were still able to meet their social needs, wants, and expectations. So when one of the children was asked how he felt being friends with his typical friend, he said, "He makes me feel happy kasi siya yung kaibigan ko, siya yung best friend ko." Another theme was forgiveness, in which it was said that they would apologize if they had misunderstandings or fights with their friends. So through apologizing, they were able to give and to gain peer acceptance through ending unpleasant conflict situations, and were not only able to build friendships with the people that they cared about, but also were able to promote reciprocal friendships. So as a participant explained, pag nag-fight kami, he will be sad and I will be sad kaya I will say sorry if we fight. Another theme was friendship with others, which recurred more often among both teams under relationships. And it was found that since all the children with level 1 ASD had a high motivation to socialize, they became more open to befriending their peers and other people around them. So this was also found in a similar study by Calder, Hill, and Pellicano. And one of the children also mentioned, "But I want to make friends with other kids. We can dance together. I'll share my Barbies." So through sharing her toys with her classmates, she used similar interests with her peers as a way to befriend them, which in turn could create more opportunities for her to meet friends and to have further interactions with them. Another theme was family members as friends. So it was through this that they were able to learn more about their own identity and how they saw themselves as individuals. And it was when they felt supported and accepted by their family members and friends that they felt a stronger sense of self-worth. So when a child was asked who he liked to spend time with, he responded, "Family, us, mommy and daddy, tita. I like my family." As for play-based interaction, this was the theme that occurred the most in all of the case studies and appeared in almost all of the interviews. So, as one participant discussed, tomorrow we can play Roblox. I still want us to play more games. However, play also sometimes became the reason for conflict between friends. So one of the participants stated, "I want Ate to share her toys with me. She never shares Marie her stuffed toy. She never lets me share her favorite stuffed toy. As well as Ate loves her stuffed toys. So she's not my friend right now, not friends yet." So this suggested that although he did not always agree with his friend, he believed that he should be allowed to play with her toys. After his anger and some time has passed, he would be able to be friends with her and play with her again. So another theme was other forms of bonding in which the participants used shared interests like singing, watching YouTube videos, horror movies, or cartoons, going out, and even talking about their feelings in order to bond. So when asked what activities one of the participants liked to do with her friend, she said, "I like it when we sing Paw Patrol songs and do karaoke." So through this, she was able and they were able to make and maintain stable friendships. Proximity or sharing physical closeness with their friends also helped in maintaining the friendships that they already had. So one of the participants stated, "We spend time together because we're in one house. It's fun in one house." However, transcendence of context, which was another theme, was also an important factor under proximity because this showed that through continuing their because this showed that they could continue their friendship beyond the place where it was initially formed. So despite the lack of proximity, the reciprocity and mutual liking between both friends were still enough to continue and pursue a relationship or a friendship. So one of the participants stated, whenever we go to Bulacan, we play together, but we only see each other on holidays and during vacations. So this showed that even though the child in the spectrum and his typical friend did not see each other often, the friendship that they had was still possible because they still considered each other as a best friend. Finally, mutuality was their sixth theme. And it was found that all six participants knew a significant amount of information about one another and felt more responsible when it came to taking care of, maintaining, and improving their friendships. So, one of the participants stated that they have different tummies and that he can eat all of the food, but his sister cannot, as she can only eat gluten free food. So, this showed that through being aware of his friend's condition, he was more mindful when it came to taking care of her. A child with ASD also stated, I miss him, pero even if my new friends na ako, friend ko pa din siya because he makes me happy. So in conclusion, there were six themes that emerged within the study, namely satisfaction, forgiveness, relationships, interactions, proximity, and mutuality. It was also found that despite having lesser friends and friendships that were considered lower in quality, children in the spectrum were still able to form and maintain friendships with mutuality as well as remain satisfied with the friendships that they had because they were still able to meet their social needs. They would also still ask for their friends' forgiveness whenever they fought and were capable of befriending family members and other people, especially when they had a high motivation to socialize. They also developed a stronger sense of self worth and learned more about themselves and how they saw themselves as individuals when they were supported and accepted by those around them. So the interactions that they had also helped in developing their friendship and socialization skills and their sense of belonging, as well as help them create and maintain stable friendships. And although play sometimes became a reason for conflict, losing the relationship over a fight was not worth what they'd been through as friends, so they continued to pursue and engage in them. Proximity and transcendence of context were also equally important, and typical friends were found to treat and interact with their friends in the spectrum the same way they would their typical friends. It was also discovered that they were more mindful when it came to taking better care of their friends with ASD. So through mutuality, both parties felt more responsible when it came to taking care of, maintaining, and improving their relationships. And through having their family members as friends, those within the spectrum could develop their friendship and socialization skills. So it was recommended that family members expose their children with ASD, especially when they had the high motivation to socialize with other people, to other children, in order to help them develop and maintain friendships as well as acquire new skills and socialization. So for teachers and administrators, it was recommended that they expose their students with ASD to other students who also shared similar interests, as well as integrate social stories in their lessons in order to give the children in the spectrum more opportunities to make new friends. Finally, it was recommended for further researchers to gather more participants from different parts of the country in order to acquire more generalized knowledge of what these children needed, as well as what they were going through in their respective friendships. Thank you.